Oh no no, oh no no, it's another episode of the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker. You've entered the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker.
Welcome back to the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker on November 4th, 2020. We have a brand new client that is affecting the world as we know it, and this client is Ballots, Bullets, and Burgers. Greg was the one who recruited this client. So, Greg, why don't you start this off and tell us what that means?
Well, yesterday in the United States of America, we had an election, big election. And so I figured, let's talk about it.
Right, but Ballots, Bullets, and Burgers, what do you mean by that? What's that about?
Well, everyone likes to eat hamburgers in America. It's the most
Okay.
American food. So we're
Do
talking
they,
about the U.S.
they,
elections.
they eat bullets too? Or are there bullets inside the burgers? Or what's the point there?
I was afraid there would be bullets yesterday, but apparently the Wall Street Journal said it was very peaceful. Not a lot of armed militias were intimidating voters or anything like that. It was apparently just a few computer glitches. It was a normal election, but I was worried about that.
Uh-huh. Well, but
I thought,
there's still the potential for bullets, I
yes,
suppose,
yes,
because the
there is.
election is not a foregone conclusion. Although at this moment in time, it appears that Joe Biden has 264 electoral votes and Donald Trump has 214. And if Biden can pull off Nevada, he wins it. He'll have
It has the
exactly
blue dot on it.
he'll have exactly 270 electoral votes, and the most Trump can get is 268.
Now, I know that because I was on Twitter prior to, joining the podcast today. And Twitter, I mean, it's pretty much the source of all things truthful and accurate.
Mm-hmm.
And
I had no idea.
you had no idea. And
No.
on Donald Trump's Twitter, he says that we have claimed for electoral vote purposes the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which won't allow legal observers, the state of Georgia, and the state of North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
So by Twitter fiat, Trump has taken those away. So I don't know. All things are off.
Well, no, let's just say that he wins all of the ones that he says that he wins. He still can't win the election.
But he also claimed the state of Michigan.
Right, and Michigan has now gone to Biden. So, and they have 99% of their voting in.
But did it really?
Well, they say that as the votes come in.
All
they
right,
get
so
more and
in
more
Michigan
blue.
right now, 99% is in. Biden has 50.3% of the vote. Trump has 48.1%. Total votes, Biden has 2,751,000 and Trump has 2,631,000. So that seems like a win to me with 99% reporting. Obviously, it doesn't matter who wins this election, lawsuits will abound in the coming days and weeks.
Oh,
That's a guarantee.
Trump
I
said it
can
last
tell
week.
you.
He said his lawyers were ready to start suing
Of
about
course,
this.
he was expecting to lose. So, but again, the linchpin here is Nevada, and the reason why Nevada's linchpin is it has 6 electoral votes. That's what Biden needs to win. It's an incredibly close race. Biden is only ahead by 8,000 votes in Nevada, right?
So that's a recount.
Well, it's not even that. Only 75% of the votes are reporting in at this point, so they can't even do a recount because they don't even have the majority of the votes in. So so weirdly enough, Nevada becomes the swing state in this election compared to the elections of the past. It's never
Yeah.
come down to a state that had 6 electoral votes.
Is
It's
Nevada traditionally blue?
I think it goes
Democrat?
back. I think it goes back and forth.
It does go back and forth, but as Matt said, because it's only 6 electoral votes, no one hardly cares about it.
Right.
They're more focused on Florida, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania, double-digit electoral states.
Yeah, Texas, and so the thing is that Biden screwed up the statistics because he won Arizona. He wasn't supposed to win Arizona, right?
That's unprecedented.
That's historically a Republican stronghold,
Yeah,
right? So
that was amazing.
this time around, Biden pulled that off. I think I must have a fuse blown because this light's not. Whoop, the light is working. All right, I guess I don't have.
Oh,
There's a lot of Latinx people in Arizona, and
What about people in
that's what
Arizona?
you reap what you sow.
What did they sow in Arizona?
A president who constantly disparages your people and calls
Well,
them
I know
rapists and murderers and locks them in cages. Yeah,
Arizona is the country of Mexico.
no, I think
there's a lot of. I said there's a lot of Latinx people in.
Oh, I thought it was more he disparaged like John McCain, who was kind of a national
No,
treasure
he's
in
disparaged
Arizona.
many people, but he disparaged.
I know, but John McCain was the key Republican in Arizona, and that's the one that Trump would go after. He would go after McCain, who was a war veteran, and he was totally belittling of McCain. So I think that may have been more of the reason why Republicans have turned against Trump in this case. Not that it's like some huge coup for Biden in general, because I'm sure the votes were still pretty close, as they've been close for just about every single state. But, well, Biden got 51%, Trump got 47%.
I was just talking to a friend, and they said that Arizona might flip back. They're still counting votes, and he said on his map that he saw on the AP Newswire, it went back to undecided.
Well, I'm looking at Associated Press. All these statistics I'm giving are from the Associated Press.
Okay.
So 84% have reported in. So depends upon what does that other 16% look like, right?
Well, the other 16%, I mean, is going to come from mail-in ballots that haven't been counted yet. So those are going to be favorable to Biden, which is why Associated Press is calling it.
Maybe. I mean, that's an assumption that they'll be favorable to Biden, that more Democrats use mail-in than Republicans. And I think it's a valid assumption, but it's still a maybe,
Well, all of this...
maybe there is some...
All of this is a maybe. But,
yeah, no kidding.
But here's what's interesting to me, being from Florida, which went pretty overwhelmingly for Trump. On the ballot at the same time was an increase to minimum wage, which Florida is not.
You broke up there. You said on the ballot at the same time was what?
An increase in minimum wage.
You talking for a national minimum wage or a state?
No, for state minimum wage.
Okay.
And it won.
Okay.
Which means that a good number of Trump voters voted for an increase in their minimum wage.
Right.
Which why do I say that's important? Because neither candidate, Trump or Biden, had anything to say about anything that meant anything to anyone. It was just vote for me because he's an asshole, or vote for me because he's a socialist, or vote for me because there was no real strong policies coming from either candidate. And so what we're just seeing is the shitstorm of cultural warfare between the right and the left. But when it comes right down to it, in the state of Florida, they voted their self-interest. They voted for Trump, and then they voted for a minimum wage, which doesn't totally make sense. I don't think Trump is a big increase in minimum wage, or the Republican Party is a big increase. Yeah. So I thought that was fascinating, at least here in Florida, that both of those things won. Like when I saw Trump was tearing it away, I was like, well, there goes the minimum wage thing. And then the next thing I knew, before they'd even announced that Florida went for Trump, they're like, oh, it won. And I'm like, really?
Well, maybe it's because more people are working at fast food places during the quarantine, and they realize that the minimum wage is so crappy that they had to vote for more. So that's where the burgers tie into this, right? Is the burgers are responsible for that vote in Florida.
That's why I suggested this client. Thank you, Matt, for reiterating what I was thinking.
So that's what I'm saying. So you have the burger side of the vote, which is sort of the meat and potatoes.
Yes.
Economic interests, and then you have the bullet side of the vote. The I want to keep my gun, and he's going to take my gun, and that kind of just ridiculous polarization of an issue that really doesn't mean that much to you in your everyday life.
It's weird that the Second Amendment wasn't such a huge issue this time around, because that was the thing really, in my opinion, that got Trump elected in 2016. Was there was lots of guys are going, I can't vote for Clinton, they're going to take my guns, and I think it's mainly because the virus is the bigger issue. I'm just curious, what's the world if Trump does pull this off and does get elected, and it's not it's looking God, it's such a squeaker, you know. And I love using that word because I'm sure that's the noise both of their anuses are making during this particular election. Is you've got
Yes.
I don't
Biden
know that
and
in your
Trump anal
70s,
squeaking.
I don't know that in your 70s your anus actually squeaks. It probably
Yeah.
more flutters.
It could be just the sound of you sitting on your very expensive leather chair
Right.
as that happens that causes the squeaking to come about. But I know it is so close. I mean, last night I had written it off. I had basically said, "Oh well, there's no way Biden can actually win this thing." And then today, when I saw that Wisconsin and Michigan had flipped, I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this is a whole new ball game."
They had red
Um,
dots all last night. You know,
yeah.
they're like leaning towards.
I mean,
Trump.
there's still question marks regarding North Carolina because that's less than 100,000 vote difference for Trump, and then Georgia is really tight too. That's like 50,000 vote difference. But the thing is, that's got 97% of the voting in, and North Carolina's got 94% of the voting in, so that's a big question mark. But I don't see Biden pulling off Pennsylvania. I mean, it's got 88% reported, but there's like a 200,000 vote difference there. I don't
Well,
see.
you know what's such a victory of the squeaky anus lead by Biden?
Maybe that
is
should be
that-
the name of a new political party. Is the
Yes, the squeaky anus party.
Yeah.
They'll be affiliated with the Looney Party from England. But the squeaky anus thing is like, it is nice because Trump forever has been, well, for weeks, has been saying, we're going to stop counting as soon as I win. But he hasn't won yet. He's not even winning.
Well,
So
last
he has
night
to
he
keep
said
it.
that he won, and they should stop. They should stop counting.
But he hasn't won. I mean, the votes.
Yeah, but he said so.
Yeah, I know.
So that
So
makes it
that
true,
could-
Greg.
No, that could make it. You're right. This is
Yeah.
the new world, new reality.
This is
But-
how Trump grabs us all by the pussy, Greg. You know, he just grabs it, he takes it because he wants it, and he says it's true, so we have to
Yeah.
believe it's true. You know.
But I'm saying that, like, so he's very dumb too. You have to remember, and so he thinks maybe some of these votes will come in and sway things, like Arizona might flip back. We don't know, but like Brendan said, almost every person is saying that, like, yeah, Democrats overwhelmingly are voting by mail early, not voting in person. That's just a weird demographic thing about our country now. The Republicans are like, we're voting in person, like normal. And so the more votes that come in, it'll probably get more blue.
I'm curious if let's just say, for the sake of argument, Trump regains it. He takes the job back. What does that mean for the handling of the virus and all of the countries? So we've got 4 more years of Trump, and the virus is still in play. The pandemic is still here. So how does that get dealt with? Do you think that he'll just demand that all of the states just open up and everyone throws away their masks, and we just go about life as
Herd
it used to
immunity.
be? Life as it
Herd
used to
immunity.
be? Yeah, and just like the chips fall where they may, we all just start dropping like dominoes, maybe?
He would love that. Yeah, if he has his druthers, that's what he wants, I think.
He wants to just see everybody die.
Well, not everyone. He wants the economy to keep going.
He
but
just wants the
does
Democrats to die.
He would like that.
Yeah.
Right. But unfortunately for him, with the exception of people of color, Democrats tend to skew a little younger and Republicans skew a little older. The question is, if Biden wins, what is he going to do? All I ever heard him say was he's going to institute a federal mask policy.
I have no idea what Biden's going to do.
I just think
I don't think
science.
anybody who came into this would have a really definitive plan on how do you handle this, because it's such a weird thing.
I just
Right.
think any
Even 8 months
politician
later,
other
it's
than
still a
Trump-
weird thing. What's that?
Any politician other than Trump would trust science, like most world leaders have done, and most of them have licked this disease.
Yeah, even
Most
Boris
countries-
Johnson in the UK is starting a second lockdown.
I
Right,
know.
what
I'm
I'm-
saying there's problems. It's a hard problem to deal with, but don't just trust science. Trust science on this because it's a scientific problem. And Trump is obviously just saying, fuck Fauci, fuck all this good advice from the guys who are experts on infectious diseases. That we don't want that guy. I mean, Ben Carson might be a better president than Trump right now. He might say, I'm an idiot, but I trust science.
Would you think
Science.
Carson would actually say that? He'll go out like on CNN, go, by the way, everybody, I'm an idiot, but trust science.
He might. He's that dumb. And he'll fall asleep while he's saying it.
He's
he'll pass
that
out.
dumb.
He'll
Guy,
start
that's the
snoring.
guy who got his Presidential Medal of Freedom at the same time as Fauci did under Bush. And he's going to come out and say that he's an idiot. Yeah, I can see that happening, Greg.
It could,
So-
you never know.
So the thing is about the pandemic as a, I don't know, as a wedge issue in this election. I couldn't really see that either one of them had a plan. You know, the countries that we heralded as having it all under control, like Germany and Great Britain and other places, other than New Zealand, which is a little island no one goes to. The thing is, we haven't figured this out. So masks all the time. I mean, we've been under the mask thing in Pinellas County for months and months and months. Have we done that?
What percentage of people have been wearing them? Like when you've gone out, have you noticed an overwhelming majority of people at places
Yes.
wearing them? Okay, that's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't go into a store like Publix, which is a store down here, or Walmart, or anything like that without wearing your mask.
But
You
the
can't
mask
go-
is just part of it. How about is the social distancing in place too when people are in these stores? Because I was at a Home Depot the other day, and let me tell you, people didn't care anything about social distancing. They're all just right next to each other, and people. I think what happens is people get this concept that the mask is supposed to be the be-all, end-all thing that saves you from the virus, and which is such a moronic thing to believe. You know, it's just one additional part of it, but it's gotten the most traction is because people don't like wearing frickin' masks, and that's where all the pushback has come from, and why people won't do it. So, but like it all has to be in place, like the frickin' sanitizing and the 6 foot
So
between
I
each other,
can't
and the masks all need to be in place. You know?
I can't attest to how much everyone's washing their hands, but when I've been out here in Pinellas County, and that's all I've got to talk about, is social distancing in? Yeah, to the degree it can be. There was a point where I was actually going through the produce department, and what happens is people stop, and you're like, I got to get around this person. So now I find myself watching other people do the same thing, kind of trying to go in other directions so that they can't, like get too close. So I push my cart up to this should be like an NFL ad. I push my cart up, and there's this family of like, I don't know, like mid-east like white people, big grandpa and a whole family, and they're like spread out.
So you say Mid-East, the United States,
No.
or the Middle East?
No, Midwest,
Oh, okay,
like Wisconsin people, right?
got it. Okay, like your wife.
Yeah, like
Got it.
like Fargo, right?
Okay.
So they're all there, and it's grandpa and grandma, and then it's like I think his 2 daughters, and they have a couple of kids. They've got several carts, and it's like zone defense. They're just covering an area. I'm pulling up, and there's another guy next to me, and we're trying to I could see us both like, how do I get around these people or get to the bell peppers, whatever. And so the guy, the grandpa, looks up at me, and I look at the guy, and I said, "They got us in a zone. You go right. I'm gonna go left." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna cut in." We started talking football, and the guy was like, "Oh," so he starts like moving his cart like he's gonna get us. And anyway, so people are trying, but it's hard. I mean, you can't hardly get through a grocery aisle without kind of coming within 6 feet of somebody every once in a while. But I think on the whole, I think here in Pinellas County, which is hard to believe, they've done a pretty good job. Now, if you go to Tampa, across the bay in Hillsborough County, no mask requirement, no social distancing. It's crazy. Whatever.
Oh, so it's obviously quite different in different parts of
You
the
guys look
state,
at New York City,
which is
our
probably
own
the way it is
country.
here too.
Look at our own country, New York City.
We
has
are
the
looking
worst
at our own
numbers.
country, Greg. We've been talking
No,
about our
at first
country
I
for the
was
last
talking
few
about
minutes. You
other
whack
countries.
job.
I was talking about other countries, how well they've done with
Oh.
Corona.
Oh,
compared
so
to
you
us.
were still having a conversation with yourself while Brendan was talking.
No, I brought that up, and I just thought, yeah, we're talking about how have we done compared to other countries? But even New York City, they obviously this huge island, tiny island with millions of people, they were fucked at the beginning of this, and they dealt with it. They have the best numbers now in America, and they're like, don't come in. People from everywhere.
Well, I
else.
wouldn't say they have the best numbers in America.
They're pretty good though, considering how fucked they were. Like
Look,
5 months.
They're
months
better
ago.
considering how they were. They're not better. They're not
But
like.
they followed the rules. They
Great.
just said, "We trust science. We're gonna follow these rules," and it worked.
Right.
New York is bustling. My friend lives in New York. He goes to work in New York every day. He says people are out in restaurants. There's not huge outbreaks. They dealt with it just by being sensible and trusting science.
Well, unfortunately, New York still has the fourth highest amount of cases in the country.
New York City.
I'm talking about New York State, the entire state.
I'm talking about New York City. Sorry, because
Okay.
New York State, there's a lot of upstate New York that's basically Alabama, and I'm sure there's lots of people up there who are like, "Fuck masks." I don't gotta wear that shit.
Haven't been to Alabama more than once. No way is upstate New York anywhere close to Alabama.
It's like that. They're just as hillbilly as they are in the South.
Do they hang black people?
They what?
I said, do they hang black people?
Oh,
No,
probably.
because they already hanged them 100 years ago. There's none left. There's no black people left to hang.
There are not any in upstate New York.
No, there are. I'm being silly. But I got to say, remember the cow tipping story from last week? That was
Oh,
those
no.
upstate New York kids I knew. They were like, they're those kind of kids. They might as well be in Alabama, you know? It's the country. New York is the most rural state as far as agriculture. You don't know how many farms. It's all farms up there.
Wait, New York is the most rural state in terms of agriculture compared to all of the other rural states in the country?
Yeah, as far as agriculture, sorry. It's a farming. People think of New York as New York City. New York State is one of the biggest.
You're such a
agricultural
weird
states
statist,
in the
Greg,
country.
in this case. There's so
Nebraska
many...
has nothing but farms, for Christ's
Well, no,
sake.
Nebraska is nothing like New York in terms of rural.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You guys don't know how rural
Nebraska
cities
is Nebraska is got more population than Manhattan, obviously.
It doesn't. I'm saying not New York City. New York City is an anomaly.
Right,
New York
I
City
understand you're saying New York.
is a huge
There's
swath
areas of
land
New York
that's just
State
farms.
that's farmland, but you're saying it's more rural than any other state in the country, and
I
that's
meant
just a completely.
agricultural, sorry.
But even
It's one of the most
agricultural.
agricultural states in the union as far as farms producing stuff. It is huge, but
How
nobody
is
thinks
it
of that.
more than 90% of the other states that are rural states? How is it more
It
than
is.
them?
I don't know. We have good farmland.
You
We
just
got
it
good
is
soil.
because are you Trump? It's just because you say so. What are you talking about?
I'm gonna
It's-
speak up
New
for my
York
home
is a
state of
major agricultural
Washington.
state.
Washington is a major agricultural state. People don't know that. They think
Just for
Seattle. They think
weed.
It's a-
weed. Absolutely. Where do you think you get your apples, man? You know where pasta comes
Yeah,
from?
apples.
Washington State.
Pasta?
Like 80%,
Those are good
80%
apples.
80% of the pasta you consume in the U.S. was probably grown in Washington State.
You grow pasta?
Well, you grow wheat and then you make pasta out of it. But they grow the wheat that makes pasta.
You say they grow more wheat in Washington than they do in the Midwest?
Specifically for making pasta.
So pasta wheat is made in Washington, but it's not
Correct.
made anywhere
Pasta wheat.
else.
It's probably made other places, man.
That is such an odd statistic to know. It's like,
I'm Italian. I didn't know that. I love pasta.
well, that's because all of the pasta wheat in Italy comes from Washington as well.
No, probably
It
not. It
could.
probably comes from the Ukraine, to be honest.
It's no longer the Ukraine; it's just Ukraine.
But
I just heard
anyway,
about this.
I
Supposedly
think
that's racist to say the Ukraine. Like he's from the Ukraine.
Well, it's not.
People get
It's
offended
not
at that.
racist. It's just not how it's stated. It's kind of like saying the England or the Italy. It's saying
No, literally, I was talking to a friend last night, and she was very offended because someone said she's from the Ukraine, and she was very offended. Like, oh, that's racist.
And
And
this
I was
is
like-
why Donald Trump almost, hopefully, but almost won the election is because idiot fucking people are having goddamn conversations about saying the Ukraine
Exactly.
versus Ukraine.
No.
and calling it
no, that's
racist.
wrong.
This
It's
is
not
true.
because of that. It's because the people who follow Trump don't care about grammar. That's the problem.
You know what, Matt? If you're trying to eke out a living and put, food on your table and fucking pay your rent, grammar isn't really important to somebody in Pennsylvania who's fucking working a dead-end job. And that's the problem with the Democratic Party is they've lost sight of who and what they stand for and are just a bunch of corporate elitists, no better off than the Republican Party. They just
no better off, really.
No.
When Democrats are in power, more social programs don't get passed.
Really? Tell me which ones.
Every time since I'm a kid, every Democrat has had more food stamps.
Give me the like the last 10, 20 years.
Well, he just said food stamps.
Ronald Reagan.
Food stamps was in the 60s. Let's move forward to like the last since 80 to now.
Yeah, prove what a Democrat you are, Greg, because I have no opinion on this.
I'm just saying that in my lifetime, I'm not a big fan of the Democrats. They're what I want. I want Bernie Sanders, but
because you're a communist.
At the end of the day, Democrats, feather their nests. They're corrupt politicians too. But at the end of the day, they're like, hey, let's have a food lunch program for kids. Republicans never get tired of just keep taking. They never give back. It's like when Reagan was president, it was like, oh yeah, we've taken a lot of money from everything for our millionaire friends. And at the end of the day, we'll start more food stamps for people. That never happens under Republicans.
All right.
Democrats do a few things every now and then.
All right, fair enough. Let's talk about food stamps. That was like the 60s and 70s.
They're still going on, and
they're still going on.
All Republican presidents try to cut that shit.
Well, sure. There was the whole issue of Trump earlier this year of trying to cut food stamps during the pandemic.
They always do.
But you can also say that the Republican Party under Trump gave everybody, a check for $1,200 and allowed SBA loans for that basically you don't even have to repay. How much more liberal?
Improve the economy because they were like, people aren't spending. We're so scared that the Dow Jones will go down.
So how is that different? How is that different than food stamps?
Food stamps keep people alive. It's taking money so people don't starve to death.
But Brendan's making a point though. Like,
no, he is.
They gave all this money to the American people to keep them alive. To use your same logic.
No, they were keeping them alive to spend. They wanted people to pump money back in the economy. Do you really think Trump gave a shit about me?
Well, there is a reason why it was called a stimulus bill, which was designed to go back into the economy.
Exactly.
But Greg, the economy has to stay afloat, or people starve to death.
I'm not. Yes.
So, but in terms of I think you're looking at motivations, is what you're seeing the difference in.
But that's important. I want my president to care about if people are starving or can't afford health care. I want them to care.
I hope Joe Biden wins. Let me start with that. But I don't think Joe Biden's motivation is one fuck more important or more to the good than Donald Trump. I think he's just.
Are you serious?
Yes, I'm
Trump
serious.
Doesn't give a shit about anyone. He's a fucking sociopath.
Well, he's a psychopath. But let's talk about Joe Biden for a second. Joe Biden was a champion of the crime bill, which locked up more people than anything else. I mean, we have more people incarcerated.
He's not perfect.
But he's not perfect. That's really very nice.
Though. Well, then you're saying that. Then you have to say that about Trump too, Greg.
No, he's not. He's not
a human being.
He's a fucking I've never met anyone, even at a bar. The worst guy I've ever met at a bar, who I wanted 86 from my bar. He'd be a better president than Trump. He's a hateful motherfucker, and I'm sorry if I sound like this partisan wacko.
Well, let me ask you a very direct question, Greg. So what statement has Trump made that he said he hated somebody? Who did he say that he hated? Because you said he's hateful. So where has he said that he hated somebody?
Well, he doesn't. Basically saying he hates all black people by supporting
did he actually say I hate all black people? Did he say I hate all black people?
White supremacist groups.
Well, what white supremacist group has he supported? Who has he gone? But how has he gone? But how has he said I love? Has he come out and said I love the Proud Boys?
No, he said
Right, he hasn't.
by.
Yeah, that's an easy
Exactly.
one. That's an
why I
easy
said
one to
that's
take out of context because
That's quibbling.
but he's a horrible public speaker, and so it's an easy soundbite
Oh,
to
you're giving
attack.
him a pass.
It's an easy soundbite to attack Trump on. I give him a pass on certain things, but he is the douchiest of bags, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, please don't get me wrong. I think Trump is a psychopath and is dangerous to our country.
Yeah, he's dangerous to freaking everybody around him. But still, certain things are used to attack him with that I think are quibbling to attack him with, when there's so much more to go after him for. Like,
Well, he did at the first debate by telling the Proud Boys to stand back. That's like basically Hitler saying, "Hey, brown shirts, get ready."
Yeah, but he didn't say it in the way that you said it, Greg. Did you see the full? Did you see the full quote?
Yeah.
Did you see how he's? Yeah, but did you see how he said it like a befuddled grandfather? Is how he said it.
If you want to give him that pass, sure, you could take it that way.
Well, I'm not even. It's not about giving him a pass about that. I mean, the fact is that he has done so many things that are much, much worse than whatever he said about the Proud Boys, right?
No, I think that's worse than people aren't taking this seriously enough. He's basically saying we want these guys, these extra legal group, to help me take the election. Stand by. We might have to do some fighting.
That's certainly how you can read that into it, but that doesn't mean that's what it was about.
It's obvious.
Hold on.
But he didn't even bring up Proud Boys. Somebody else had brought them up, so it wasn't like it was something that was in his pocket that he was saving to be able to say that. No, he just couldn't think on his feet. That's all, and he's shown that he can't.
But let me bring it back to, I think, other than all this, which is all valid, the point that I was trying to make, Greg, which is because you said you supported Bernie Sanders, right?
Yeah.
Well, he's in love with Bernie Sanders.
Okay. Well,
because he talks like Greg.
Okay, whatever. That's not my point. My point is this. My point is this. The part of me that kind of went to bed last night going, if Trump wins, I'm okay with it, is maybe, just maybe, the Democratic Party will have some sort of come to Jesus moment.
Oh, that won't happen.
I know, but yes, Matt, I got it. But let me be hopeful for a second.
Okay, I'll shut up. Go ahead. I sorry to interrupted you, man.
No, it's fine. But I was hopeful that if he did win, that they might recalculate and recalibrate what the fuck it is the Democratic Party stands for, which would make me very happy. For all the reasons that you're saying, Greg, it would make me very happy. But as long as they can just prop up some befuddled old man who was the vice president of the most popular guy they've had since Clinton and get him elected and just continue the corporate bullshit that they do, they're never going to learn a lesson. This comes from...
But whenever they try to go somewhere else like Bernie Sanders, America pushes against it. They're like, "Oh, socialism. This is too radical."
But let's take a hard look at this point, though. So you're saying they're propping up this befuddled old man, but who's his running mate? If he wins, this is frickin' historical, because this will be the first female African. Well, I guess she's not African American, but she's black.
She's a mixed
woman.
Indian and African American.
Or Jamaican. I think she's Jamaican.
Jamaican?
Yeah, Jamaican and Indian, something like that. So she's more like Jamaican American. You're Jamaican American? I'm Jamaican American. Everybody's got children. You got to make it American. Anyway, but point is, I don't know where they came from. Point is, though, is that she has a real possibility of being president. A real possibility, because Biden might not last his term due to his age. So that being the case, that will completely shake up the infrastructure of whatever's going on with the Democratic Party. Now the question is she just a tool? Right? Is she a puppet of special interests? That's the real question,
She is.
To get to that level, she probably is.
She put people in jail.
Well, she was an attorney. She had to put people in jail.
That's her job.
Yeah.
Some people belong in jail, Brendan.
Some people
belong in
some
jail.
people need to be in jail. Yes.
People, yeah.
I
So
like that.
petty drug people, they need to be in jail. She
Petty
locked up a
drug
lot of
people?
those in Cal.
Well, some of
Yeah.
those petty drug people are doing more than just petty drugs.
Are you done?
That's all I had to say.
Okay. So small-time drug offenders, she locked up a considerable amount of them in the state of California.
Because that was her job. She couldn't fight this whole
Oh!
system. She was an attorney.
Okay, that was her job. Okay.
What could she do? I mean, that's
Well, so
America's
as the president, she's just gonna do her job and drone strike innocent
No, she'll
brown
be in
people.
charge.
Well, no, she probably will.
She can
I'm
affect
not gonna,
change.
I'm not going to say that won't happen. That's very
But she can
real.
affect change.
Barack
It would be
Obama
like, I
was a
never
pretty
liked this
good guy. Barack Obama was a pretty good guy. He stepped up the drone program and killed, I don't know,
Yeah.
thousands of innocent people.
That's what I'm saying. Why are we equivocating these? Like, it's basically like, hey, here's a sandwich that's not that great. It's maybe the bread's 3 days old and bad bologna, or a piece of shit with broken glass in it. It's not the same thing. Any of these people are better than Trump. Come on, you got to admit that. It's like Trump is a plate of shit with broken glass in it. If some waitress offered you, hey, this sandwich isn't that good.
And I just want to highlight that statement, Greg. So could you describe again what you feel Trump is?
Trump is I want to make.
You said not a plate of glass. What was that again?
No, it's a plate of dog shit with broken glass on it, maybe some toxic chemicals that will kill you, and then the waitress says, "Oh, but would you like a bologna sandwich? The bread's kind of stale." And it's not the best choice. Our system is not built for the best choice. You have to have a lot of money and betray your best interest to get the money to become president. I wish it was different, but the money in politics. So you're not going to get to vote for your Prince Charming, but you can in this election. I'm surprised how close it is. It's like you've had 4 years to see what a plate of shit with broken glass in it, this guy is. Yeah, right. Biden's not Prince Charming. Biden is a shitty sandwich. It's a bad sandwich, no condiments.
Right, which is exactly my point, and I voted for Biden here in Florida. So please don't misinterpret what I'm saying.
No, I know you did.
I think there is some change certainly happening within the Democratic Party. I think it's just they're all freaking confused on which way to go, because you got the progressive wing, which is going farther to the left than I'm really comfortable with. And you got the status quo, which is basically Biden. But then you have a guy like Buttigieg who intrigues me a bit. You know, what you're holding your face, Brendan. What's going on there?
Mayor Pete is a Manchurian candidate. That guy was invented by the corporate people. You should go back and do some Mayor Pete research. That guy went to Harvard. He's friends with Mark Zuckerberg. He is the new face of the corporate centrist Democrats. That's a fact.
But it would be better than Trump.
But that's not the point.
I know it is the point though now, because if you try to do better, Brendan, the American people will be like, "Oh, he's a radical socialist. We don't like it," or "He's Pete, we're not ready."
Well, I'm curious, Brendan. Well, Brendan, so then my question to you is, what direction do you think they need to go that would make you happy?
Who's that?
The Democratic Party.
I think that they need to come back to
the days of the KKK?
No, the FDR shit.
No, I'm saying if we're going to go back, how far back are we going? You know, if we go back to when they started the KKK.
I'm sorry, I paused too long so that Matt could interject the KKK reference. So I think we need to go back to a party that understands that American workers are the most important part of our economy. And we need to come up with plans to help them, whether it's things like raising minimum wage, whether it's things like a public option for healthcare as opposed to this bullshit system we have. Those are the kinds of things that I think would Yeah, those are the kinds of things that I think people would get excited about, as opposed to this vitriol of I'm going to vote against Trump because he's a piece of dog shit with glass sandwich, and the other side saying, uh, Biden is a doddering old man who's senile and he's going to let Black Lives Matter destroy our suburbs. And that's the level of politics we have right now, and it's fucking sad.
But Bernie Sanders says all these things, and he's labeled as a radical socialist who's going to ruin America. He wants all these things that we want. He wants free college for your kids if you're poor. He wants total health care for everyone.
Right. Hey, guess what? You know how many Republicans I talked to over the last 3 weeks that said who were not real super Trump supporters, who said that if Bernie had been the alternative, they would have voted for him?
I know, that's a thing. He might have won if they didn't dick him over at the 2016 Democratic Convention. He might have won. People hate Hillary. It's like everyone act like, it's like voting for Nader in 2000, which I did, sorry. And but he could have won. He had more of a chance of winning than Hillary, I think.
Than Hitler?
Hillary.
Oh.
Than Hitler?
I didn't know Hitler was in the running. Back from the dead, propped up.
Hitler. I don't know why you brought that up, but
it sounded like. Well, we got to go back to the bullets part of the client.
Yeah.
So all right, so we have everyone's got their opinions about how things should change. So the question is, what happens when somebody is announced? Biden gets announced, Trump gets announced. What happens on a national scale to all of the places that boarded up their shops with plywood?
Mad Max Fury Road happens.
Is that what happens?
Yes.
Fury Road, not the original Mad Max.
No.
No.
It'll be nuts.
Well, I mean, what do you think, though? You say nuts. Like, what do you think's going to happen? You think there's going to be riots?
Well, you know what I just recently read is that, like, all these things that we thought were just accepted, there is really no legal thing that a president has to step down. The founding fathers just assumed the president will accept the vote and step down. But there's really no thing in place legally to be like, hey, you got to go. You lost the popular vote and the electoral vote. Trump can still just basically be like, no, it's all fraud. I don't accept it. I'm not leaving. There's really no legal recourse to say, no, you have to go. I just found this out. It's horrifying. It's like, it's almost like the emolument clause. Remember the whole discussion about 4 years ago?
The emolument clause?
Himself. What?
The emolument clause.
Yeah. And I probably said it wrong like everyone else does. It's a new word we only learned because of Trump. And that is just tradition. Technically, Trump didn't have to divest himself.
Wait, could you say the word tradition again?
Flagration? What did I say? I don't know what I said.
I don't know. How much you been drinking today, Greg? Because I'm noticing some interesting speech patterns.
Everyone, you guys start drinking at the beginning of the episode, but today I start drinking an hour before.
I want to talk about the judiciary system.
The judiciary.
The Supreme Court and the judiciary.
Judiciary.
All right, so let's say Biden wins, Trump decides not to leave.
Yeah.
So what happens there?
I don't know. Who knows?
Somebody come and drag him out? Does somebody else run the Secret Service so that they can
if they will. I don't know if they
him out
will,
on
the
his ear?
military's on his side. The cops are on his side. This could be the first coup.
I don't know that the military and the cops are
the generals. On Trump. There's some generals who've given him a ship, but generals are basically college educated.
I don't know.
Do you know any guys in the military? Do you know any guys on the ground, like guys who fought in the military?
Yes.
Right now I don't.
And
I used to.
Everyone I've ever known my whole life has been a hardcore Republican. You go through that process, you're going to be like, this is my commander-in-chief, fuck you. I'm
Not
for
true.
Iraq
Well,
War.
not to bring up Buttigieg again, but Buttigieg was a veteran. He's a Democrat.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying there are some exceptions, but I've had
Yeah.
punk rock friends who were so radical. They went into the military to get some money for college, and they came out totally different. They were like, "Oh yeah, George Bush, we had to go in Iraq for those weapons of mass destruction."
Yeah, but all
we
those
did."
friends are in
Well-
their 50s now.
They are,
But
and they're full-on Republican, right-wing people now.
Yeah, but
There's-
Oliver
there's-
Stone was a veteran, and he's
I
definitely.
know there's exceptions. I know.
Well, that's right. It's called
Right,
normal Americans, Greg.
No,
Right,
there's
Greg.
a lot of military guys.
there's-
are few
there's
right.
a difference between correlation and causation. Meaning,
Yeah.
those punk rock guys that you knew probably had those opinions, or why would they have fucking joined the military? I was
Because
a
they
punk
wanted
rock
money
guy.
for
My whole
college.
family was military.
They
Oh,
were
that's a
poor.
good cop out. That's a good cop out to tell your punk rock friends when really you were like, I want to go shoot a fucking gun.
I want to kill
But-
people.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You know, anybody who joins the military, Greg, goes into it with the understanding that at some point they'll probably have to kill another human being. Right?
True
They'll
that.
be in a position where they'll have to kill somebody, and you need to reconcile that in your own head when you go
But
into
that's
the
not
military.
partisan. That's not a Republican Democrat thing. That's just like, yeah. I
Well,
might
it's
be
a
Republican.
guns thing, right? So it's a
Yeah,
Second
but I'll get
Amendment
free
thing to a
college.
certain extent. College is
college.
not a major incentive for joining the military.
I
It is
know
an
some friends who
incentive, but
did.
it's not a major incentive. There's
I
other
had friends who had
incentives
no
there.
prospects because they weren't that bright and they couldn't go to college and they went to the military because they were like, "This, I'll have a better future. I'll
Okay.
get to."
So that was their only reason for joining the military. Is I'm just going because it'll give me a better future.
As far as they told me, I trusted them at their word. Maybe they were lying to me. I don't know. Maybe they wanted to kill.
I don't know. But going back to Matt's point, here's what I think. If Biden wins, I don't think the Trump people are going to riot. I don't foresee them driving through the streets. I mean, maybe there'll be instances of Proud Boy whatevers and, specific states, but I don't see any kind of anarchy coming from that camp because Trump is going to continue to lead them with his, I'm going to fight this. I'm going to sue. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. So they'll be kind of abated. They won't have to go to the streets if Biden wins. If Trump wins, Biden, being a reasonable human being and not a psychopath,
That's true.
Well,
I'll have to give Biden that.
will concede the election. I mean, assuming it's legitimate, will concede the election. He'll probably challenge it a little bit. This is going to go through the month. This is going into December.
And Biden definitely challenges it if he loses.
But but at a certain point, Biden will concede. At which point, the left is going to go fucking bonkers.
I
That's my
have an
prediction.
issue with the term "the left," right? Because it's not everybody in the left or even in the Democratic Party who's going to go bonkers. There's a certain
No.
core group of people who are going to go nuts, and there's going to be people who are opportunists who aren't necessarily Democrats, but they're definitely anarchists who are going to take
Okay.
advantage of these circumstances.
So-
I think like half the Antifa folks are just people who like to be violent. They're basically the guys out of A Clockwork Orange, but they're part of their own different movement.
The Droogs.
Right. That's essentially how I view the violent aspects of the Antifa folks.
I don't
Fair
see
enough.
it that way.
Okay,
at all.
so with that in mind, sorry I used the left.
Yeah.
That element will go nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean,
don't see
there's
that at all.
already people going nuts if you watch anything on social media. They're just
But
completely.
you're talking about
batty.
going nuts by being like doing democratic protesting, which is part of our.
Well, there's protesting,
Bill
then
of Rights.
there's rioting there, Greg. There's a
Yeah.
difference between protesting and rioting, right?
There's a
And I
few handful of
understand
bad
I understand the reason for rioting, because rioting generally comes about when there's like serious injustice that's happening. However, it still has to be pushed back. And then when the looting happens, yeah, those people don't deserve anything whatsoever,
So
Well, those people,
Right,
the
so-
handful of bad apples, but
Yeah.
most people are out there demonstrating righteously and democratically to say we're outraged at this injustice.
Yeah, that's totally fine. They
right.
should do that.
Yeah, but
So-
the looters
so-
are 30 people looting shit because
That's
they're
more
taking
than 3
advantage of
people,
the
man.
situation.
More than 3 people, but I hear your point.
He said
I said 30.
said-
I said
Oh.
30.
he said 30.
Oh.
But okay, but fine. So let's separate those two groups of people. Let's take the looters and the rioters and the anarchists and all those assholes and put them over there in their box. And then let's take the, protesters. How long do you protest?
Well, they've been protesting here in Portland since
Doesn't
George
stop.
Floyd went down.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it like every single day.
Right.
There's people camping
Is that
out
a bad
there.
thing?
I'm just wondering how they're able to feed themselves.
All I'm saying
Without
is
working.
at what point do you stop having a temper tantrum and decide to get busy and be a grown up and
Is
do
it really
something
a
about
temper
the situation?
tantrum? No, this is
Yes.
systemic
Yes.
shit that's been
If it
going
goes
on
on
for
for six-
hundreds of years.
If
Like,
it
what
goes
do you-
on for 6 months, yes, it's a temper
But
tantrum.
nothing's changed.
Either
though.
that-
like, it's not like
It
they
doesn't-
changed the system. Black people keep
Yeah.
getting shot every day, like
And so do white people.
wrongfully. It keeps
And so do white
happening.
people. People get shot.
Yes.
Well, we're not
but
going to get
black
into
people get shot.
we're not going to deal with Black Lives Matter concept right now, are we?
Well,
No,
sure,
but-
it's
but-
part of it. This
but
is a
all-
big part of the elections.
Well, I know. I'm just talking about
Obviously.
debating that. I don't necessarily want to get into that debate here today.
As three white
Okay.
men, three old
Yeah.
white men talking about Black Lives
I mean,
Matter.
Brendan's going, white people get shot. I'm like, oh, well, obviously you're not as much
They
of a
do.
liberal as you say you are, Brendan. Anyway,
Get shot.
Oh, but wait a minute.
Liberals
Time out.
like it-
You don't
like
get
it
to
shot.
you don't get to take the high road and then make a cheap shot.
yes,
Here's
I
my
do.
point.
I do it all the time.
Here's my point.
Yes.
How long are we going to protest and versus organizing and getting something done? Protesting is cheap and it's interesting and it's exciting and you feel
It does
good and
help,
you get it.
though.
All right, I think
It doesn't.
I think where the
Vietnam.
I think what happens here is you need to define who are the people who need to do the changing and the organizing, because basically the people out protesting generally aren't the ones who do anything anyway. They're just merely the people who are called to go out and protest. So there's somebody who's organizing that thing. So it's whoever the spearheads are of those particular demonstrations that need to finally get out and do something. And that could be part of some overreaching agenda as well. I mean, I don't know personally, because I just really haven't looked into it, to see who is actually trying to do something within the government structure to make these changes in general. And I know there's organizations that exist, I do, that are working for social justice. And there are organizations that are attempting to change the systemic racism within the prison systems and what have you. But I think it's because there's not a very defined organization behind these protests, and that's working with the government vocally so that everybody knows who they are, other than Black Lives Matter, that we don't really know what's happening. I think people are out there protesting, and they're just protesting for the sake of protesting. I don't think they're doing it because they know if anything's actually changing or if anything's happening. I think that's what's going
Protest
on.
does affect change.
Right.
Like the Vietnam
It
War
does
protest.
affect change. There wouldn't
Made
be the
people
vote for
say-
women if it wasn't for women protesting about getting the vote.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right, but in the
They
terms
don't
of
have to
going
be,
up,
like, brilliant
and-
politicians,
but
they
this-
just by
but-
protesting.
Let's make
You send a
protesting
message.
good again.
to make protesting effective again.
Yeah, I mean,
Because it's kind of
all
like,
the-
in this case, Greg, it's protesting for the sake of protesting. It's not really, there's no defined thing they're protesting.
So
What do
let's-
you mean? They're protesting
Okay,
that
time out.
black
But
people
there's
die
three
every
different,
day.
three
at a
or
copy
five
can.
different groups who are protesting various different things. The message is all mixed up.
It was
You
in
know?
the 60s, but it did help stop the Vietnam
We're
War.
not talking about the 60s. We're not saying it's not
I
effective.
know we're not.
We're saying right
But I'm
now the
saying-
protests are not as effective as they could be.
Because we have all this fake news saying they're terrorists and they're
Fake
Antifa.
news. So you are Trump.
Oh,
You're
no.
using all
We have
of all
Fox-
of
we have
Trump's.
Fox News saying these guys are just radical terrorists.
You use all of
Okay,
Trump's
no.
talking points, Greg.
They're American citizens.
You're actually a Republican, Greg. I think I figured it
No,
out.
there's always been fake news. The news has always been pretty fake. It hasn't been very
Okay.
lovable of my side. The news has never reported my side.
Hold on. Time out. Can we talk about? Let's talk about.
I need a whistle.
Yeah, let's talk about the whole Occupy Wall Street thing. That's some distance in the past. That's not right now. That was some distance in the past. They did that consistently for, I don't know, a long time, months and months and months.
True.
What did they accomplish?
They accomplished getting Bernie Sanders into the Democratic primaries.
Excellent.
Okay.
Then success.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished. Good work.
Maybe it's a mission. It's not really a mission accomplished, but it's something. So.
And how did that turn out?
Bernie's done a lot of good.
Well, what it's turned out is he put a lot of ideas into the mainstream that got looked at by the Democratic Party to determine if it's something that they want to put forth within their own platforms. You know, and in some cases it has worked, in some cases it hasn't. But you know, you've got Biden as a serious moderate going in there right now, and in a maintenance of the status quo, which is essentially what's going to be happening with Biden going in, or let's say a return to the previous status quo as opposed to our current status quo, which is polarization and civil war, which is what we currently have. So that's personally why I voted for Biden. I saw Biden as, at the very least, maybe can get us back to where we were, so then we can start actually being able to address what the problems are, as opposed to this 4-year freaking nasal issue that we've had with Trump as president.
Nasal issue? What does that mean? Nasal issue? It's sniffing?
Yeah, right.
That's what bothers you the most about Trump, is sniffling during talking?
No, Greg. I just mean that I'm allergic to him, is what I'm saying, Greg. I'm allergic.
This is different than any other election where we're talking about, like, no, this isn't just like left or right or Republican or Democrat. This is like, do you want democracy to continue? Biden's not the prize pig at the county fair, but he's not going to undermine the
Constitution. Right, exactly.
Donald Trump obviously has been pushing for that since in 2015, it was 2016 when he first started running. He's like, oh, the media has no right to ask me these questions. Like, there shouldn't be a free press. They're the enemy. That is like the opposite of what our country is based on. So that's
right.
I would vote for Mitt Romney right now.
I would vote for Mitt. I would vote for Mitt Romney over Joe Biden.
Yeah, so would I.
Come on.
Oh, I know, definitely.
Really?
I would vote for Romney over Biden any day of the week. I was a never Biden, you got to understand. I had never planned in my life of ever voting for Biden for anything.
Because he's a plagiarizer. Because he plagiarized the speech.
That and a number of other things.
That's horrible.
There's another reasons. I voted for Biden because I would rather have a senile old man than a psychopath. That
with a decent heart. Joe Biden's a decent man. Like, you can tell. He's not a monster. He's a normal guy.
Well, how can you tell, Greg?
Because
he's not a decent guy.
Everything he's done in his career.
I think you should relook at that Wikipedia page.
I know that
oh, you're assuming that Greg has actually done research on him, but
I know about Joe Biden. I know that the crime bill, and a lot of Democrats, I'm sure Joe Biden has too, they've regretted this. They've said, oh, we made a mistake. Bill Clinton did. They actually came out and said, yeah, maybe we fucked up. They actually have that capacity as human beings to say we fucked up.
I don't think Greg can see your violin, Brendan.
No, I don't know what he's doing. But anyway, yeah, okay. So they regretted it after they did it. Okay, cool. But I'm just saying, as a person,
you just broke up there, Brendan. What'd you say?
I think they're
as a what person?
I said that he's flawed.
Uh-huh.
As a person, he's flawed.
Yeah.
And it isn't just plagiarism; it's his voting record, and I gotta think there's some fire to the smoke relative to his son and all these foreign dealings. There's something there that isn't all just totally invented.
You know, I'm willing to concede that there's probably something having to do with his son there. However, I also look at it from the point of view of here's a guy who's been in a number of different presidential election cycles, Biden. And if there was real dirt to be found, it should have really come up by now because people have dug into the guy with a fine-tooth comb over the last 40 some years. And some of those things came up, but nothing horrible, right, in terms of the minuscule amount of digging that can be done on Trump that's brought up stuff that's horrible. I mean, just with one of his frickin' the Trump Foundation being found, fined $4 million for committing fraud against other charities. So I'm willing to think that Biden is a better person than he may appear. And I'm sure there's some stuff associated with the son, but at the same time, you cannot blame the parent for the crimes of the child either. Otherwise, Trump would be even stupider than he currently is if you look at his two main leading morons with Trump Jr. and Eric, right? So, obviously kids make mistakes and problems happen, and you can't. And I'm sure Hunter was probably trying to find some way to get a deal for the guys that he was working for, and his dad probably was like, sure, I'll talk to him, I'll make you happy, or something like that. But yeah, if your kid's a cocaine addict, you really can't blame the parent for the kid being a cocaine addict, So
Wow.
that's the issue I have with how they brought Hunter Biden into this whole issue. It's like, fine, Hunter Biden's probably like a major criminal douchebag, but I don't know the guy. But I don't see what bearing that really has. Jimmy Carter had Billy, who was a beer-swilling moron.
I love Billy Carter.
But wait a minute. As a dad, Billy was his brother, not his son.
True. Same thing applies.
No, it doesn't.
Still a relative, is my point.
But my kids are a reflection of the upbringing and the values that I put into them. None of my kids are cokeheads. None of my kids will do that shit because I raised them right. I can't control my brother. No, I'm not lucky.
People have kids who go wrong. It's not some people are great people, and it wasn't their fault. Their kids went wrong. They went astray. That happens.
Every person has their own thoughts, regardless of who their parents are. People don't raise serial killers.
Yeah.
To be serial killers.
Well, some have.
Some may have, yes. But the fact is, like, every person is different, regardless of who their parents are. And yeah, you can attempt to raise them in a particular way, but that doesn't mean that they're going to go in the way that you want them to go.
No, 100% sure. Yeah. But 80, 70, what percent would you put a parent's role in raising their child as determining their future values?
Huge. You're right. It's huge.
Is it 50? Is it random?
No,
is it zero?
It's probably 80. You're right. It's probably 80.
I'm not even willing to put a percentage on it because that's not really the point. The point isn't a percentage.
No, it is the point. You're just
percentage is not the point.
There are like 10% of kids who are just bad seeds. I mean, that concept of the bad seeds.
I'm not even like I said. I'm not even willing to put a percentage on it. The point is that everybody's different. That's the point. Regardless of it could be 90%, it could be 0.5%. It doesn't matter. Everybody is different.
Yeah,
everybody is. Yes. Well, you disagree? Everybody's not different, Brendan?
No, this is one of those arguments you make which doesn't have any bearing on the actual argument.
It has complete bearing on it because Hunter Biden is not his father. That's the bearing.
No,
he is his own person.
Hunter Biden.
He is not his own father, but his father raised him with a certain amount of values. And all I'm saying is, what percentage of the values that your father raises you with affects you as a person?
To some extent, yes, but you can't really say what it is. You don't know what extent it is. How can you know what extent it is? There's no study for that. There's no study to say how much of that person's particular core beliefs they've chosen to keep on and how much have they decided to throw away. You can't really gauge that. There's no guess. The guess is moot. The guess is... All right, I'm going to say 0.00001 to infinity % for whatever it is you want to prove, Brendan. Or
Google
no, 99.9%. I'm willing to go to
Okay.
both those percentages because either way, there is still a factor of unknowing. There's a factor of free will that gets put in play where any person can take whatever upbringing they have and go off to whatever direction they want to go. Unless you're going to say that you're like B.F. Skinner and you can take any kid and give them any particular actually that's not Skinner, it was some other psych. But anyway, take any kid and put them into any particular occupation you want because you can mold them in that manner. You know, the fact is that there's still going to be rebels within any organization, within any family member, or there's going to be people who are totally passive and do whatever it is their parents tell them to do. It varies. There's no percentage. I mean, I don't know of a percentage at all. I'm not willing to say there is one. I just know that anybody can be different from their parents regardless of what values their parents raise them with. Some parents are indifferent, and that people had to create their own values, you know?
Well, then obviously you don't do marketing professionally, because that is the whole basis of advertising and marketing is those percentages, those households. That's the whole basis of politics. That's what we're talking about.
No, we're talking about Hunter Biden being run by his father. That's what we're doing. We're not talking about marketing. What the hell's, what's wrong with you today, Brendan? This hasn't got to do with marketing, for crying out loud. No, it has to do with how did he raise his kid, and did his kid decide to follow how his father raised him or not? And it's entirely up to the son to decide if he wants to follow that or not. That's where it comes down to. It's not a matter of there being some overarching demographic involving. It's like, how many Hunter Bidens are there? No, there's only one. And you can't really have a skewed demographic on one guy, right? It's just one guy. It's like you want to make these generalizations. It doesn't work.
Hey, Matt, you win. You're the champion.
There's no winning or losing on this.
Yes, there is.
All right, so what did I win? Tell me what I won, Brendan.
You won the argument.
What argument? What argument did I win? How did I win it?
Well, if you shut up for a second, I'll tell you.
Only 1 second.
You won the argument that Hunter Biden was not influenced by his father and did whatever he did based on his own free will. That's the argument you won.
Okay.
Yes?
I'll buy that. Yeah.
That was the
I mean, I would say that the father obviously is going to have some influence on the son, but it's not going to have...
No, don't...
He's not going to have total influence. No, I'm not going backwards.
Don't go backwards.
I'm merely qualifying it.
So you'd have some influence, but not total influence. Which brings me back to my point.
Some influence.
How much influence does a father have on his child?
I have no idea. It depends upon the child.
And the father.
Well, no, it totally depends upon the child in terms of how much influence they accept from the father, or how much goes in with their particular personality.
Oh my God. If the father is not involved with the child at all, then the father has an impact on how much impact he has on his kid. If you're not around for your kids, for raising your kids, you're just working all the time, you're doing whatever you're doing, you're not involved, then your impact relative to your child's upbringing as the dad goes towards zero, right?
Yeah,
Would you agree with that?
Sure.
Okay. To the degree that you are involved, your impact increases, right?
Sure, there's a certain impact, but you don't know what that impact's going to be.
You don't know what that impact's going to be. That's true.
It's unknown, yeah.
It's unknown, but I'm saying it can be estimated. That was my only
point. Estimated based upon what?
Matt, I think we should move on.
Well, to me, it just is... It's unclear, and it's difficult to make it that much of a definitive factor to say that Biden created Hunter Biden's current personality.
First of all, I never said that.
Yeah, I didn't say you did.
Well, you implied it. What I said was
didn't mean to. Sorry about that.
You did bring it up as a fact that Joe Biden's not that great, that his son is so shitty.
Right. All I'm saying is, Matt, that a father, if he is involved with his child's upbringing, has an impact, a measurable impact on that child. And it sounded to me like what you were saying is, that's bullshit. that's psychology, that's B.F. Skinner, and that's not true. The kid will just do whatever the fuck he does without reference to his father's
I don't
involvement.
think he was saying that. I was saying there's always kids who are going to go their own way. Like my dad, let's take a real example. My father was a fucking saint of a man, brilliant, started his own business, succeeded his whole life, and he spawned me with all of my great life lessons I had of seeing this great father figure who always did the right thing. Literally, I could say one time my father did something that I was like, oh, he fucked up there. And I'm a turd. I'm not as much of a turd as Hunter Biden or Donald Trump Jr., but I'm not as good as my dad by a long shot. It's kids go their own way. It's like my dad was great. He did nothing wrong.
I don't disagree that kids go their own way. I've raised 4 of my own, or 3 of my own.
And you're lucky. They're all great, right? You said you lucked out. But I'm saying that's just, they could have not gone great. That's a human thing.
But all I'm suggesting here, which I don't know why I got all this blowback, but all I'm suggesting is I don't consider it luck. I consider it work. I consider it I put the time in. I tried to impart values to my kids. You know, if I just let them do whatever and they grew up in Florida, they'd probably all be Trump kids because that's their friends. But my 11-year-old went to a party and was sitting there with a bunch of kids who are her friends, but because she had my influence and her mother's influence, she was asking these other 11-year-olds questions about, well, why do you feel that way about Trump? And what about immigration? That is a direct impact of what I did. So to say that it's all just whatever, that was the problem that I had with our discussion, Matt. That's all.
I'm just saying anecdotally, my own life. Like my father did nothing wrong. He was a great father. And I'm not talking about politics because he was very liberal. So it was easy for me to be a pinko. But other things, I did a lot of bad things, just like stupid, irresponsible shit. My dad didn't teach me that. It wasn't because he was negligent. He didn't do his job. I just went my own way out. I rebelled, or I was like, fuck this. I'm going to dick around for 10 years and not do what my father wanted me to do.
Yeah, I think this whole argument, the whole argument came about because I was stating that you can't say that the kid is an absolute reflection of the father. And I think that's where this came from.
I was never trying to speak in absolutes. I was just saying that there is some impact.
Could be.
Well, I mean, there's impact of nearly anybody a person comes in contact with for any extended period of time that affects another person. It could necessarily be that he had a good relationship with his father, but then there's somebody else in his life who had a more deleterious effect on him, which caused him to go this other way. It's like you give your kids what you can, but they have all these other influences that can come upon them and make them go, who knows where they're going to go.
I don't think anyone's saying that Joe Biden might be a shitty dad. We don't know. He might have been. Yeah, maybe he was a really shitty dad, for all we know.
Given
he probably wasn't home that much.
Path, that's right.
Yeah, he always took the train home from Washington D.C. to Delaware, so his commuting time wasn't probably great. So, and then there was that whole tragedy in the beginning of Biden's career, where his kid and his wife were killed like the day he was supposed to first take office as a congressman, which may have affected how he treated things later on. Who knows? But either way.
Can we talk about the elections real quick?
Is there an election going on, Greg?
Remember the elections?
Yeah, as of this moment, the electoral votes have not changed. It's still 264 to 214.
How surprising is that the House is way more Republican? That was interesting.
Well, the House got... Well, I think a lot of people aren't necessarily caring for the local elections so much of who they vote for in terms of party, but more like issue-oriented.
The House of Representatives is...
House of Representatives is basically local in the sense that
it's local, but
districts.
Also,
what are you trying to say, Greg?
They can influence the national policy.
Right, but I'm talking about how they get voted in is a local thing. It's not
Yeah.
a national thing. The rest of the country doesn't vote on representatives. That's my
I know.
point.
I just thought that, like, after 4 years of Republican rule that has gone awry, people would be like, fuck this party. They're just like cult of personality, Donald Trump insanity.
Only if they're a pinko like you, Greg, but most other people are more
Really?
rational. Yeah.
Rational? Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I
rational.
vote. I
To
vote.
follow
I vote across party lines, Greg. I vote for Democrats,
do?
Republicans. Voted Libertarian. I think for something in this particular election. I can't
So you
remember what it
threw away
was.
your vote, you're saying?
No, I didn't throw away any vote. Every vote that was given was not thrown away, other than by people who feel that if you don't vote for their person, it's a throwaway vote.
No, I'm kidding. I threw away my vote with Nader. I did that. And
It's not a
Not
throwaway
happy.
vote if that's who you wanted, Greg.
I threw it away.
It's not a throwaway if it's who you wanted.
I wish Al Gore won 2000. America
If that's
would
who
have
you
been a much
wanted, then
better
that's who
country.
you should have voted for. Any vote
didn't.
given in good conscience is not a throwaway vote.
In an ideal world, I
Don't
wanted
let
Ralph
people
Nader.
tell you otherwise, Greg. Fuck those
Okay.
people.
That's theoretical, but in the real world,
That
you're
is the
throwing
real
away your
world,
vote.
Greg. No, that's
I
not
would
the
vote
real
for the
world.
Green Party. I would vote for the Green Party candidate every time.
Then vote
That's
for
the
him.
world I want.
Who's stopping you from voting for him? Are you being peer pressured into voting for somebody you don't want to vote for?
It's not peer pressure. It's just like,
Sure it is.
That vote that'll be thrown away.
It's
Nobody will
it's
give
not a
shit.
throwaway vote if it's somebody you want to elect.
I know for a
I
fact
voted-
that 10% of Americans will vote with me, and it won't matter.
It matters to
most
you.
10%.
It matters to those people.
It does.
So there you go. So it's not a
But it won't
throwaway.
influence change.
It's only a throwaway to people who who have issues with you voting for somebody they want in power.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, because like Biden has a chance to win. Bernie Sanders actually, I think, had a chance to win 2016 before.
I would have voted a third-party candidate even in this election if there was somebody else that I would have been more comfortable voting for. I would
So
have
you
done
would have
it.
thrown away your vote.
No, I would not have.
Nobody would have
I-
cared if you voted for that guy.
I don't care.
Hold on. I agree with Matt. I voted for Gary Johnson in 2016.
Yeah, so did I.
Who's he? Could you explain him?
He was a libertarian candidate.
Oh, libertarian.
Yeah.
But
He was a libertarian candidate, both he and his vice president nominees. I liked the vice presidential nominee actually more than I liked the presidential nominee for libertarian. But either
did.
way, I would have liked them both in office because they're both former governors of states that were the opposite of them. They both worked bipartisanly. They both wound up with surpluses in their state coffers whenever they left office. They were really good at using the veto and getting things accomplished across party lines. I was very enamored with those
Yeah.
guys. I thought, why not? I really would like to have seen them do well. And that's the best the Libertarian Party has ever done in this country was the last election. This
would
time
agree.
around, I wasn't that really excited about the Libertarian candidate. And I wasn't excited about really. I was interested in the Alliance Party because that kind of more aligns with my way of thinking what the Alliance Party's about, but they're not on all the national ballots. And I wasn't really a big fan of their presidential candidate either. So I voted for Biden because I
That's
never
pretty
could
much-
vote for Trump.
Because you want a shitty bologna sandwich other than a plate of shit with glass in it.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So this time,
Which is the logical
but
choice.
because there was no other bologna sandwich I was interested in.
So you would have been voting for air, basically.
Air?
You would have been saying, hey, waitress, give me a plate of nothing. 'Cause it's not going to win.
Wait,
That's what you would have been
could you
doing.
work this analogy a little better for me? A plate of
Yeah,
air?
wasn't the best.
Whoever orders a plate of air at a restaurant, Greg.
Nobody does. I'm saying, I'm trying to be metaphorical, and I can't even imagine the rest.
You're getting more metaphysical is what you're doing than metaphorical.
Yeah, the
The
no
plate is
restaurant
the
air.
plate is rising above the table by itself
It
now.
would be the metaphorical
Spinning
equivalent of
around.
ordering air at a restaurant. Give me a plate of air.
I think what
Because
you're
it's not
giving
gonna
me
work.
right now is a plate of air, Greg. This is all a plate of air. So we're not doing the pizza fund anymore. So I'm going to pause things now. Go. All right, welcome back, everybody. we've decided to toss out the whole pizza fund and dealing with demographics and all that stuff. So what we're talking about now is another aspect of our current client, which is, of course, as you all have memorized, ballots, bullets, and burgers. And Greg is going to talk about how more people can buy burgers now while they're completely under the influence of various different
They're
substances.
nodding
Just
off.
here in Oregon, when apparently you can be a junkie and it's all good.
So, since I've been a kid and started voting, one of the most interesting things about voting is the propositions. Every state gets to do some semi-radical stuff. And Oregon has just decriminalized every drug, pretty much every drug, like Portugal has, which has shown these really great results. Less addicts running around, less AIDS infections, less ODs, people actually getting off of drugs because it's not as stigmatized. And there's I'm curious, Brendan, in Florida, are there, like you said, there's nothing that radical, but every state has their own option.
All right, so what apparently happened was that they decriminalized the possession of, this is from the Wall Street Journal, decriminalized the possession of all illegal drugs, but also legalized the use of psilocybin. So, so I guess they de-escalated criminality for the illegal substances.
Yeah, it's like
but then they made psilocybin legal, like I guess like aspirin or something.
And I think that you can't buy a bag of mushrooms at a store. It's like it's microdoses.
It's for mental health treatment. That's what the psilocybin
which is microdoses. Yeah, you can't buy a big fat bag of sweet mushrooms and
sweet mushrooms
anymore.
So wait a minute.
But it won't be criminalized.
All right, Brendan's trying to say something. Greg, shut up. Let Brendan talk.
I'm just trying to understand. So psilocybins are legal for medical reasons?
For mental health treatment.
Yeah.
So you have to have a card.
I think it's more it has to be prescribed to you.
Yeah.
So you have to be prescribed. So you go, I get nervous on airplanes, and then they give you your...
I think it's more like if you've exhausted all other possibilities, they're experimenting with psilocybin because it's seen to work in certain treatments for some people where they got benefit from that, but not from anything else. Like guys who had PTSD, that type of thing. But I didn't know about this decriminalizing all drugs thing. That is fascinating. So what are the ramifications of that? I mean, that means, will they be like letting people out of jail who got put in jail for that kind of thing?
Jail, Matt.
No, I'm talking about the ones who are already there. Greg, the ones who are already there. Listen to me.
Oh, I don't know about that. Did that happen
fool.
when they decriminalized marijuana?
Did the people in
jail? Yeah, I don't think so.
I would say that
those that are.
Yeah, I don't know if it's retroactive or not. So,
okay,
but maybe
I don't either.
Maybe that's where the justice system should really come into play. I mean, if things aren't if things are not illegal anymore, and you were put in there for that thing, unless you've committed things while in jail, you should be let out.
Yeah.
Right, or you had priors like armed robbery, and then the last thing they got you on was minor possession of coke.
Right.
Well, you did rob some, but if it's just minor possession of coke and you're in county, they should let you go.
Yeah, I guess it'll come down to, but it's for small amonts of drugs.
Yeah, and the
illegal drugs.
Say that like if you have a certain amount that you're a dealer, no, you're going to be prosecuted. They don't want that. But if you have a certain amount, and it was very specific amounts for every drug, like this amount of grams for coke, this amount of pounds of marijuana. It's like, yeah, that's for your own personal use. Basically, you get $100 ticket. It's like
seriously. Wait, time out. Seriously, it was pounds of marijuana, or are you just talking shit?
No, I'm sorry, I exaggerated. I don't know what.
Well, and apparently, marijuana has been legalized in 4 new states, though. New Jersey, Arizona, Montana, and South Dakota have now legalized recreational marijuana.
But it's still not like, you still can't have like pounds in a warehouse of marijuana without licensing it, right?
I don't know.
Like if you're a dealer, illegally dealing marijuana.
You're a dealer at that point.
But I think this is going to probably have an interesting effect on the DEA, because they still have to go by federal guidelines, regardless of what goes on in the states. So
yes,
that'll be a whole different issue.
And what do you guys think about in California? They just put on their proposition lowering the voting age to 17.
I don't care.
Really? That's
I
a major thing.
Eh.
It's historic.
I tried to find something on the internet while we were on break. I couldn't find anything. So
Lowering the voting age in California?
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know if it passed. I didn't check.
Where did you hear about this, Greg?
Well,
Facebook.
I was helping my friend in California vote. She wanted a friend to help her, like, go through the propositions and talk about it, which is a good thing. Everyone should do that, by the way.
So
It's good to talk to
did
friends.
it pass?
I don't know. That's what I just said. I don't know.
So
But
there
I
was
knew about
there was
this
an
week ago.
amendment on their ballot. It would
Yep.
have amended their
A
constitution.
proposition where people could vote.
But it
But
turns out it actually was not on the ballot. It was supposed to be on the ballot,
I
but it
saw
didn't.
her
But it
ballot
didn't
thing.
actually go on the ballot. It would have amended Section 2 of Article 2 of the California Constitution, but I guess it was removed before it went on the ballot.
Okay. I guess I read it before it was taken off. Removed.
According to this thing that I'm reading, which is ballotpedia.org.
I think it's a great idea. I think they should lower the voting age to 16.
Well, why stop there? Let's just do it to that bar mitzvah age. Whenever they're 13, they can vote.
Just for Jewish kids.
That's right.
If you're Jewish
If you
and
don't
you're
get a bar
13, you
mitzvah,
get to
you don't
vote.
get to vote. Only if you get a bar mitzvah, you get to vote. We need more paths to adulthood for our children
But
that have ritual
confirmation
associated
for
with it.
Catholics, 'cause that's the
And I
same
also
age.
think that we should cut off voting at 75.
And actually mandatory circumcisions at 75 if they haven't been circumcised at that age either. That should also
Why?
happen. To go with the bar mitzvah thing at 13, yeah.
But I have actually repeated Brendan's thing from 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, where like, yeah, young people should vote more than old people because they don't got skin in the game. It's like when you're old, it's like you're not going to vote for ecology for green shit. You don't care. You're going to be out of the
Well,
way
you know,
before things
Greg,
go to shit.
Greg, can you really say that when you're in your 70s, you're going to suddenly not care about the environment anymore? That you're going to just change your whole
I'll care
views?
less.
Yeah.
I'm checking out in 4 years. It's like I don't care if the ice caps melt.
Yeah, but
and
would
the
you
world goes to
really?
shit.
But would you really
I
decide?
didn't, because I'm
Yeah,
a
I didn't
pinko.
think so. Right, that's
You
my
know.
point. So I'm
But
just
a lot of
saying, there's going to be a
people-
lot of other people like you who are going to feel the same way. You can't really. It's a funny thing to say, but probably not accurate.
It's funny, but it's
Oh,
also
so
true
my
that
opinion is just
16-year-olds
relegated to funny things to say, but not accurate.
No, I'm talking about Greg's opinion.
Oh,
Yeah, because
okay.
I'm
Yeah,
a drunken idiot.
we weren't talking
But-
about you, Brendan, you narcissist.
I'm just saying that 16-year-olds
Okay.
have more right to vote than 70-year-olds, like Brendan said. 16-year-olds, they have to live in this fucking world that we're creating, and they have more of a right to vote than 70-year-olds. If you're going to cut off anyone,
I think that what
How
we
about the
should do
70-year-olds?
is we should actually poll all the 16 and 17-year-olds about what laws that they would actually want to change, and then maybe we would get some very interesting responses in terms of things that we could get actually changed.
some
You
would be
know.
ridiculous, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, of course they would be. It would
Free
probably
Wi-Fi
it would
for all
involve gaming
citizens.
or something.
Yeah.
But the truth is that the vast majority, if we open it up, the vast majority of those kids aren't going to vote anyway. The only ones that are going to vote are probably the ones that we want to vote because they've thought about it and they're smart.
Yeah. And they're going to vote green. They're going to vote.
And if
we want to
and
take
if we
care of
cut
the
it off
environment.
if we cut it off at 70 or whatever the number is, we're going to eliminate people who are just voting on stupid shit like, I'm afraid of the black people.
Or the Black
The
Plague,
caravan.
for that matter. I'm
Or
afraid
the black plague.
it might come back. Have we taken care of the rats? Are they gone, the rats?
Just give me my money. It's kind of like driving here in Florida. I live across the street from a woman who uses a walker. I've lived here for 15 years. I've known this woman, and she's at a point. Her husband has died, but she still drives. I have multiple dings and dashes from her minivan in my car because I park it on the street, and she just pulls out and bangs it.
Oh my
And
God.
do I say anything?
Yes,
No.
you
What am I
should.
gonna do? Go.
You should.
No.
You have a right.
No. It's not important.
Please stop
I don't
banging
care
into
about
my
this.
car.
You might
Please.
run over your children. I mean, she should be
Or
on the
your
road.
or your duck, something.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah,
my
I do.
point is, there should be a point we cut off people from driving too.
Yeah, I agree with that. There was a point where we stopped. I think we took away my grandmother's driver's license at one point, and I'm debating doing it with my mother just for the sake of being mean, though. But all right, so what else can we talk about to end off this particular episode? It's quite lively. We're going to nearly the 2-hour mark, actually.
I'd like to talk about how you debate with people just to be mean. That's very reverent.
I debate with people just to be mean.
I think so sometimes.
What are you talking about, Greg?
That's my take. Maybe it's just me, my personal thing.
What are you trying to say, Greg? What are you implying here?
You enjoy needling people, if you will.
If I will. Are you asking me to needle people?
No,
You said if I will. It's like a request. Like,
Okay,
Matt, if you
keep
will,
doing it.
please needle people.
I don't control you, Matt. You can do whatever you want. I'm a libertarian, fat pinko.
You're not
socialist.
I don't think you're really a libertarian, but if you read
I
the
am kind of.
Pico?
I believe in the libertarian process that, like, you do whatever you want as long as it doesn't hurt anyone.
Yeah.
But of course, we know there's many libertarians now who are like, oh, that means corporations can dump fucking mercury in water. How dare you tell them not to poison 1,000 kids?
Hey,
That's
maybe
not
we take.
libertarian.
I got you. Maybe we take the second part of the show to discuss like the next week's topic or something. Maybe we use the.
I have no idea.
Well, I
do you
mean,
guys have any idea?
because right now we know that we don't know who's going to be president, and
Should we have a part two?
should we do like a
Part two?
follow up of the election process next week?
I think it would be.
I think we
Should we make?
fruitful.
I'm interested in doing another on trial show. We've done 2 so far, and I think maybe having another one at this stage. No, it's like every 9 or 10 episodes, tossing in an on trial, put something on trial. Maybe we can put the whole process on trial of the election or anything else. What do you guys think
Or
about
next
that?
week, should we mix it up and talk about Batman and his motives?
We can talk about
Something like-
electing Batman as president, maybe.
No, just Batman and his motivations. And,
So just talking about Batman himself,
he's a cultural icon.
but
We
not
can talk a lot about
not Bat Boy, but Batman.
that. There's no Bat Boy. What are you talking about?
Bat Boy
There's
used
never
to be
been a Bat Boy.
used to always be on the cover of the Weekly World News.
Oh,
that
Bat
bad
Boy. That's okay.
Okay.
I get it.
All right,
That's
all right,
another
all right.
issue.
So I think that the on trial thing for our next episode would be good because that's where we're going to be at a week from now.
Yeah, no, I think we will be
This is
for
true.
the next month. But maybe we could do Batman on trial, Greg. We could put Batman on trial if you want.
Maybe we'll do that in 2 weeks. Maybe you guys are right. We should talk about this more because there's a lot more to unravel.
All right, well, maybe we'll define it between now and then in terms of looking at
Yeah.
maybe the Electoral College, popular vote,
Or
the
Batman.
necessity of it. Because right now, Biden's ahead in the popular vote by like 2 million votes, right? So that's a significant thing to look at for overall. Well, I'm sorry, he's 3.5 million points up now from the popular vote. So last time I checked, it was only 2 million. So he's obviously moved up a bit. He's got 50.4% of the vote, and Trump has 48%. And the other
That's
two,
going to keep happening as the mail-in votes get counted
it's going to keep happening that number will stay the same.
because everyone's saying that like more Democrats are voting in mail and more Republicans are voting in person.
You say everyone's saying it. Have you actually done a poll of everyone, Greg?
I have. It
You've
was
interviewed,
really
you've knocked
hard
on
work.
doors across the
I'm
country.
exhausted all day after doing this.
I just
You don't know
want to
that.
ask you a question. I have a
I've been
question for
Zooming
you.
people. I've been Twittering them. I've been,
You've been
like,
Twittering?
Twittering.
Wasn't that what happened to the rabbit in Bambi? He got Twitter pated. That's what it was. He was Twitter pated.
I thought he was shot by a hunter.
I don't think the rabbit was.
I can't remember.
I don't know what the hell anyone is talking about.
That's what happens when you get distracted in other things, Brendan. You don't know what we're talking about. All right, so you have to come up with the final pithy, profound statement to end off the episode today. It's all you, Brendan.
Who does?
No, Brendan. Brendan's got to come up with one because he wasn't paying attention. So he's got to now come up with the ending to the show. Something profound or pithy or wise.
God, I hope there aren't riots.
This has been the law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker Computer Telecast, where any advice has been designed purely for amusement and deep-sea diving. Please take a candy on your way out, pet the lion tamer, and subscribe to this computer telecast if you know it's good for you. The law offices of Quibble, Squabble, and Bicker deny all culpability in today's events and are not to be confused with real law offices that have a secretary and books and stuff. Thank you all. Have a good day.